Reese Fawn stripped.
Yeah, that was my favorite part about like the after the episode thing, listening to him talk about like how well, I mean, obviously he just can't see that Otto's right. I was like, what?
Unironically becomes a green Chad.
You know what? He's embodying his character.
That's what I was like. I was like, this was good casting.
It's like Charles Dance becoming like an unironic the Lannister supporter during the filming.
I do. So on the prophecy front, I do think one thing that has maybe happened more in the show than in the books is that they really, I don't want to put this, it almost comes off a little stronger anti-intellectual in the show, because there's literally no like redeeming or cool thing about the Maesters. Like the Maesters still kind of suck in the book, but there are some that sort of are open to a lot of things in the world. And we don't really get that nearly as much in the show. So I think the show, it's like boiled down what is everyone's tendency with this series, which is to always prefer like the cooler, more magical sets of characters. So like, I think that's why a lot of people prefer the blacks to the greens, because I mean, Rhaenyra and Daemon are much more tied into old Valyria, like old school Targaryen versus like the Andal Targaryens that are the greens. I think it's the same thing with the Blackwoods and the Brackens, right? Like Blackwoods are like this cool, mysterious First Men house that are green seers, and Brackens are Andals, like boo. And I think they're just leaning into that a bit with all the prophecy stuff with the Targaryens, like playing that up a bit so that they are a little more magical and fun. And I thought in the beginning they were gonna have to try to make the greens more likable, but they might just be that the greens are really unlikable, and then Rhaenyra gets less likable as it goes on. Might just be more the arc.
Well, they are trying to make Kristen and Alicent likable, or at least sympathetic. And I think people tend to like the blacks more just simply because I think the authors are biased towards the black. I mean, not necessarily George R. R. Martin, but the people who write the books, supposedly.
Yeah, right.
And
are they?
Yeah, I mean, the blacks won, technically. I mean, they get to write history.
Yeah, I think that this being a in-world history book, we have to assume that there are certain things that could not be published or would have to be published in a certain way. That's why, like, you get some of the stuff from Mushroom is like, more, maybe revealing. I don't know.
Yeah,
I feel like there's an entire Twitter discourse saying that this book actually favors the blacks. No, it actually favors the greens because of the high towers. And yeah,
I gave Twitter very little credit in their.
I know, but I just have a hard time. I don't know. When I read it, I think there are certain biases. Like there's definitely a patriarchal bias for sure in that, like because it's coming from a maester. I never felt like there was a strong preference for either faction because it is a couple hundred years later, and to Robert, they're all Targaryens. Like it's being written during his rule, so. I don't know. I didn't feel as strongly.
Yeah, and I think they do start off
one or the other.
Like, hey, at the council, Kristen calls slit some dude's throat, and they're like, "Let's treason."
I think it's also
they're pretty blunt about that.
Yeah, it's also fair to say that's like, I think there's way more. I guess you'd call them like heroes to the blacks than there are to the greens, and so that tends to influence, and that's just how it came out in the end.
Yeah.
And it could be that there are people that's like their accomplishments kind of got downplayed. You could maybe say if we're going like conspiratorial, or even less conspiratorial, but more like Aegon the Third is the king, so I'm going to downplay what happened during the dance, and say that like this guy didn't matter as much. But you just have a lot of assholes on the greens, is just what it is. And then like one big major asshole in Daemon, and then like Rhaenyra gets worse over time. So it's like, it's hard.
And Damon's not nearly as wild once the dance actually starts either. Like,
really wild.
I mean, she's begged to differ.
well, true.
The
True,
single
but I mean,
worst
like-
thing in the entire Dance with Dragon, I think, was done by Daemon.
I think
Yeah.
Maelor might be worse, but like other than that, yeah.
Maelor wasn't like directly ordered by one of the leaders, right?
That's
Maelor-
true. It's
Maelor was a
true.
bunch of lower lords doing their crazy stuff.
No, it was a mob of
It was
peasants.
mob of peasants, whatever, right?
Yeah, it wasn't.
It's not assassinate these two kids.
Doesn't
yeah,
choice,
well,
like kill the other one.
Oof.
True.
Ugh.
I forgot he. Well, I don't want to say forgot that, but so much as it's not necessarily something like from the way this war is being fought. Like, it's not necessarily something that's like him being just impetuous. It's just a really bad thing he does.
Oh, sure.
But even it, yeah. Like,
And it's not even like
his
right, and
wild streak is gone.
Right, and it's like, it goes back to like Damon's self-destructive streak. It just like turns a lot of people against them, right? But like Damon doing risky, impulsive shit that blows up in his face. Nah.
Yeah, I think it's yeah, like I said, it's just I think there's more heroes in the end on the blacks. Like there's like the Greens is like Dare on the Daring, and that's like it basically.
And Helena, and she
Helena is a vehicle for trauma. And
Yeah,
it's really
she's a
sad,
victim.
But that's just kind of what
Yeah,
happened.
but like like there is like I guess, but like like they also like make a point to like like pass over Bela, although that is the immediate aftermath.
Bela rules. I totally forgot about her. Yeah, she makes.
Yeah.
She
Ooh, I've gotta-
vindicates all the blacks.
I've got
Oh,
a
yeah.
hot theory about Bela. That it was her that got Jaehaera killed in the end, not old Peak.
What?
Yes. Who does Aegon the Third end up marrying afterwards?
Dayanara.
Her choice of bride.
The other little
Brother, we
Hawaiian.
have brought your bride.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it's niggled with me for a while. After
What's her? Is her sister
I dig it.
Rhaena or Rayla?
Rhaena.
Rhaena. Okay,
Yeah.
another Rhaena. Okay. Well, they're both pretty awesome. All right.
They are, yeah.
Yeah.
They're also fairly tangentially fighting in the Civil War.
Yeah.
But
I know.
You know what, Bing? I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear it. No. No. Moon.
Look, I think the lesson of the
She knocks the king off his dragon.
okay, ignoring that point and all that, but like I think the point of
No,
Dance
right.
with Dragon is that both sides sucks and both sides destroyed each other, and the people who actually won are like Krieg and Stark, who haven't even shown up in the show yet.
Well, I mean, like, there's also like the lads, like Sabbath Frey.
Yeah, like people who eventually won the war are not even the people who started us who did this whole thing in the first place. They're people who had to go in and clean up the mess.
Yeah, I
That's
mean, pretty
fair.
much no one wins.
That's
but-
fair.
Yeah.
But there's also
I mean,
like
you could argue the realm wins for a lot of the dragons being killed off, maybe.
Adam and Alan. Like, I don't know.
Oh yeah, Adam.
Yeah.
He's the best.
Adam,
character.
Oh, we
loyal.
love
That's right.
Gets
I'm gonna cry.
prosecuted by Rhaenyra. So
Yeah.
I mean, I think
Ooh,
the
I have-
point is that like this is very much written like a real history, and that you do get that sense like people are still arguing over whose fault the Wars of the Roses were, and who the real villain is, and even when it ended. So like, I think it's good that they're. I mean, not that anyone's saying it's not good, but I appreciate that particular. Like, something interesting about this show is that it's almost like watching like one of those Stars adaptations of like a Philippa Gregory novel, and and knowing the history, and you're like, wait, that didn't happen. This didn't happen like that. That person actually wasn't that bad. This person sucked. But it's all fiction. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm just, when you said we don't know whose fault, I was like, I've lived in the South too long, because I was like, she's going to say the Civil War. I was like,
not quite the
I was
same.
like, oh,
no, I
I don't know
quite
why
the
I
same.
thought that. He called never say that. But sorry, too much time in Old Tennessee. You don't think we're gonna get little Jace with Viserys on the throne?
One day this will be yours, grandson.
Based. So big.
Everywhere the light touches. Also, it's very dark in here.
God, I can't wait.
Also,
for
this throne cuts me all the time, and I have a toddler on it.
Also,
Someone ever told you about Valyria?
Still black.
Also, my body's covered in sores from this throne that keeps continuously cutting me.
I'm
Did you guys
bathing in
notice
maggots.
Like he was taking a bath in the tub that Emma took her bath
Oh
in.
my
I'm
God,
pretty sure.
yeah. It was
And like you could see his fingers are still like the stumps of his fingers are black.
Yeah.
Ugh.
They don't know anything about sanitation in this world. Like they talk about like the Iron Throne rejects people, but it's like someone like Tywin sits in there. He's probably like wearing armor and like fully covered and shit. And the Targaryens show up and they're like, "Well, I'm supposed to sit here." Ow, shit! like yeah.
It's also
Just
like
not being
Tywin
careful.
is definitely not worthy. That guy should have gotten cut too.
Oh yeah, he should have.
Shocking lack of knowledge, but did Joffrey ever get cut? I forget.
Tywin's
Yes.
wearing red though, so you wouldn't notice. Anyway,
Oh,
Well, the trick, you have to sit imperiously. The people who sit imperiously don't get cut. The people who like slouch over do.
Slouches.
Yeah.
get the-
yeah, you
the
can't sit aloof in the iron chair. It's not meant for lounging.
We're all rummaging through our brains for cool stuff we remember.
No, I mean I think
one
I
and
think
a
we're
half
pretty
watch.
good. We got a good chat here. Plenty to go off of. If anybody has anything else to say, next week we're gonna have the wedding bliss.
we kind of skipped over the scene of Viserys confronting Daemon.
And
No, we mentioned
confronting
it briefly, but yeah,
Rhaenyra. Did we talk about the Rhaenyra scene too?
We
With-
did
or-
with the dagger
yeah,
talk.
just a little bit. Yeah,
No, but that it ends with him telling her she's going to Maryland.
yeah.
Well, and then she agrees, and then Otto gotta go.
That's
though.
his moment where he's like, all right, I'm gonna be a hard ass, and she's like, well, fine. Otto's
Yeah.
fucked.
Oh yeah.
Like,
yeah. I like
Yeah.
that she really pushed him to sack Hightower. I mean, I guess like like she's like finally like like right. It's just like showing her like finally make some sort of political decision above like selecting Kristen for the Kingsguard. It's right. It's just like to your point, Adam, about like like how she could have or they could have shown her during her progress to like be networking, but she wasn't.
I love the irony of that, of all the reasons that Otto Hightower could have been sacked. It's because Rhaenyra is pissy that he reported true information to
Right?
her father. It's like a great irony that you're like, you almost feel bad for him in this scene because he's like, "Oh, you're the truth."
And Viserys is pissed about it too, but it is like we said, it's like it's very telling of Viserys that like this is what it takes for you to be like, actually, damn, your daughter came around a lot, and then suddenly I was marrying her. Did you set that up? Fuck.
Yeah, that was
Mind blown.
actually surprisingly candy.
I expected him to have like a blunt in his hand, like I just realized some shit, like. All right, Viserys, little slow on the uptake.
No, he seduced Alicent with his rotting flesh all by himself.
Yeah,
It's the Legos.
His
It's the
stone
Legos.
dragons.
It's
Children love my stone dragons. Oh
my
shit!
Gundam dragons.
Did you see that? It's much more elaborate now.
He doesn't even build them,
Yes.
bro. He just has someone else do it for him.
He designs them, and then the Masons cut them. So he like
And then
draws
he-
them, and
He does like put them into place. To be fair,
yeah.
he's like an architect.
Which, like, I want like another episode of Game of Thrones where like we see this room. Like, I don't care.
It's just,
Add it
just
as a
Robert
scene
breaking
in
it.
an episode somewhere, or like you can go back and show me Bran in this room. I don't know. This Bran would love this room, right?
Robert with a hammer just beating the shit out of it.
He's like, fuck Valeria. Yeah.
Dragons, fuck dragons!
Well, I mean, yeah, I do imagine that Robert went through destroying pretty much everything Targaryen or having it carted off. but not
Alright.
all of it. I mean, he kept the swords and shit.
Is it nitpick or clock?
Oh yeah, what do you got?
Yes.
All right, I got a couple. So one, love Brackens and Blackwoods, especially Blackwoods killing Brackens. Beautiful, chef's kiss. But why would they have been in the Stormlands? That's so far. Why would they not have just waited till she went to the Riverlands?
Thank you.
We don't
think,
know
Okay.
what her tour was, to be fair. Like, what she was touring.
I think she was going to go to the. So this is me making shit up to make sense in my head. But I think
She does come back early. You're right.
She was going to go to Riverlands, but she said, "Fuck it, everybody in the Stormlands. I'm done with this whole thing. You want to be heard? Get to Stormlands now."
Maybe. Okay. Nitpick 2. And this one, actually, I can think of a good reason. But why ain't she riding Cyrax around? Or do we think she's learned? Do we think she's learned from like the mistakes? Maybe not the mistakes, but like that's one of the things that's kind of mentioned in Fire and Blood is like when Jaehaerys and Alysanne and Aegon and Visenya go on tour with their dragons. It ends up being like a
Too
a
scary.
whole thing. Yeah, it ends up being a whole thing like where lords have to feed them, and so is she being just wise and not like putting lords out financially, or
We haven't really
do they
seen much
just
of
not-
Cyrax since episode 2, right?
No.
Yeah,
They're
She's
saving the budget on the
pretty.
dragons. They're just
Yeah, I
saving
think-
the budget.
But I think part
Yeah.
of
Budget
it makes the
implies
point
there's a
because
limit.
like she doesn't ever really do a ton with Cyrax anyway. Like Cyrax is not a battle dragon. I think this sort of kind of sets that up.
Yeah,
Well, also,
she's
right,
one-
it causes like a big, like the common people all freak the fuck out anytime like a dragon comes around, usually, right? Outside of like the Crownlands area.
I actually think it's a.
for sure.
Yeah,
Oh
I
yeah,
think
if you see a dragon flying over and you're like, is someone's house getting burned? Like, did some lord piss off the king? But I guess that's not something that they've done a ton of.
No, but I think it's a nice
Um,
contrast between her traveling more modestly by ship and Daemon being a show off and
Yeah,
flying back on his dragon and causing all sorts of commotion while doing so.
but yeah, I mean, I don't think it was like, I don't think like, you know, like they would like be particularly cognizant of like, you know, like keeping like the common people's wishes in their like decision making, but you know, like there is also like how like they or how like Maegor's Black Bride, what was her name? Because like she rode a dragon, but
Rhaena?
yeah, but her brother didn't, right?
No, brother
And
Jaehaerys?
Aegon.
did. Aegon did.
Oh yeah, he did. He
Aegon
rode quick.
died
really?
on his dragon.
Wait, there was something in Fire and Blood about like,
Just-
you know, like
just
where
for a
like the
minute.
bride of like the heir rode the dragon, but the heir did not. So like when they went on Progress, that like, you know, like she wanted to go on
Oh,
Dragonback,
yeah.
but they didn't want her to. But they didn't want
She
her to
did-
like
yeah, she
upstage the
didn't-
king
Yeah,
for the heir.
that's them. That's them. She didn't ride until, or he didn't ride until after Amy's died, and during, like he went in and stole Quicksilver right before, like right in the middle of that sad attempted rebellion. So yes,
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they
You-
wanted
you've got-
her to
you've got
come
the-
off as a
you've got the right
demure-
story.
Right. Well, maybe they just wanted her to come off as a demure, you know, like chaste princess who does not ride a massive beast of war.
Might have also helped with keeping her on the tour.
Yeah.
Because if she has the ability to just hop on her dragon and run away, it's a little bit easier
She'd do
for
it.
her to. Yeah, it's a little bit easier for her to not do any of the tour and just fuck off when she wants to.
Yeah,
I
well, it's
think
kind of
that's
interesting.
the explanation.
They made such a point of her being isolated, and it is kind of interesting. We've really only seen one scene of her like taking Cyrax for a joyride. Like, obviously, doesn't have to be a bunch of those, but basically, we just see her coming back in that first scene of the show, and that after the Great Council, and that's really it. And it seems like if you're painting someone as a loner, there might be some opportunity there, but we'll see. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, there was
I'm
some
just-
discussion
I'm
in the
Dragon
last
Boy.
podcast, right, about like how, like, you know, like where was she in the intervening years since like Viserys remarried, and also like why isn't she like surrounded by a small army of ladies? But I think in like fiction doesn't really
Yep.
capture that, right? Or it doesn't really capture like that for just like like economy of characters usually.
Yeah.
So I'm not like so torn up about it, but
No, but
some
I will
handmaidens for
say,
her. Sorry, go ahead.
well, I mean, part of the point of handmaidens, like they would sleep, in your bed with you, and part of that was, it's a whole plot
ensure your
point and much ado
virginity.
about nothing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
like Marjorie
if
does in the main series.
if they had some of this, it might.
But also like right, but also like like even like during Robert's reign in book 1 of the main series, they're not very good at that. Obviously Sansa and Arya are supervised by Septim Ordain, but like like it doesn't seem like something that like Martin is particularly interested in writing about.
Yeah, no, and the rules aren't necessarily the same. Although I do think it was. I thought Bina had a good point last week when she said like it doesn't really make sense that they're alone very much. Like they should.
Oh, I agree. I completely agree. I just also don't think that fiction really is interested in usually like depicting that as a rule.
I kind of like to view
Yeah.
it as like a reflection of, frankly, the masculinity of the court, that they just don't, that there's so much performance of masculinity that they don't pay attention to like women's friendships and whatever, even though that would also be a norm of patriarchy in some capacity, but whatever.
Well, yes and no. Like that kind of put the whole like thought in my head of like the declining power of Targaryen women from basically from Visenya and Rhaenys through, it's sort of a through line. And Rhaenyra is probably a little bit of an uptick at this point compared to Alicent, I would say, right? Like,
Disagree.
and well, Alicent had power as a counselor, but I mean, Rhaenyra was named heir. I mean, so comparing her before the dance as named heir is probably an uptick, right?
I guess.
So maybe she's powerful enough that if she doesn't want that, she doesn't have it.
That's fair. I don't know. Her women's courts, her ability to like end up creating multiple laws or influencing the creation of multiple laws. I don't know. I don't think you're wrong necessarily. It's just that I think this is like a eventually thing. For
Well, this is like a slight uptick still on the way down. And this goes into my whole. I don't want to list out the whole theory, but I have a belief that Andals and their patriarchy is really bad for Targaryens, and Valyria might have actually been pretty. I don't want to say they weren't patriarchal, but may have been way less so than Westeros. They had plenty of other problems, but maybe not quite so much misogyny.
possibly. I don't know.
Maybe it was just Visenya's personality as Aegon's older sister too. Like that could have just been that, but it always sort of felt like that was part of the deal with the Seven coming on board, that they gave a lot less power to women over time. Dana the Defiant for Queen, please.
I'm mixed on it myself. I think we go a bit far in the Andal hating at times in the fandom, but I don't disagree that there's issues with it.
A bit far with the Andal.
Yeah, people get really weird at they tend to like go hardcore on the Northmen being like, or the First Men being like uber progressive. It's like, they're not really. No,
Right.
like ruling.
What's weird, what
Stark
strikes me is just like
ever.
odd. It's just like just like the whole like religious pluralism of like this. Obviously, like it's not like medieval Europe was like 100% intolerant, depending on like like specific communities you could find across like time and place. But like you know
But yeah, I think it's just sort of the
Yeah.
way Martin mixes different historical periods, like based on technology, and some of it compares to like Renaissance.
He
Some of
wants
it
the magic
compares
trees.
to
He will have
medieval.
the
Yeah,
magic trees.
yeah. But then like this, I would say religiously probably compares more towards medieval times when there were more like I can't think of a good word, but more like Celtic religions going on across Europe. Kind of competing
Pagans,
with.
Kevin, you can say it.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I could.
Thank you,
I don't know the right
but
historical. I don't know the right
I know.
historical word.
yeah, pagan
But-
religions would be probably fine to say.
Yeah, I feel like yeah, I don't know. It would be nice if they would lean less heavily into the like, well, she's a girl, so no one wants her, and he's the boy, so everyone wants her. Like, leaning more into the she marries Damon, and everyone's like, fuck no, we can't have Damon. But a lot of the realm is like, no, she's the queen, we love her.
Aegon's a
That would
slouch.
probably be a better, yeah. Because like Aegon is, what is he, 16 when the dance happens? 15, 16?
He's 18.
And I mean, I
think
don't
he's
think
18 or 19, and
I don't think he's like a shit, right? I mean, like he's not known to be like a terrible guy.
Aegon the second?
seems to be a party boy. When it
Aegon's
starts,
a little bit of
Yeah, he's
boy and
he's
and
young.
a
He's
little bit of a man slut and a little bit of a-
yeah.
yeah.
But
I mean,
he's not
it's
known
not-
in the same way Damon's known.
No.
Yeah. and I don't like. It's hard to judge him for having a couple bastards because like he did get like made to marry his sister as a teenager. So
it doesn't seem like a happy marriage.
nah. Seems like
Yeah, that's not
just-
going to be fun stuff to watch.
Oof.
Right, it's like when Allison's saying, you Targaryens have queer customs. It's like, you're gonna have your son marry your daughter, lady. You're clearly gotten over that by that time.
Yeah, and she won't just come out and say it. She's like, "Oh, you Targaryens, just a little eccentric." It's because like any other lord would be like, so the uncle is like fucking with the niece, and then be like, yeah, that can't fly. That's not cool.
No, Allison,
Yeah.
just like says, uncle, niece, no, like
brother, sister,
like,
yeah,
get that gross Habsburg shit about here. We're going ancient Egypt.
that's right.
man. When
Well,
we
clearly she's like, look, I got to strengthen the Targaryen blood for my children. So what better way to do it?
when we were covering Fire and Blood, I figured out 13 ways that that Rhaena and Baela are related to Daemon and to Aegon and Viserys.
Jesus.
Oh, no.
No relations.
There's been some articles floating around that are like, how are the characters of HotD related to Jon Snow? And every single Targaryen, it's like, oh, it's her or his great grandmother and his like seventh cousin twice removed. Like,
And
there's
his
a-
uncle and his.
Well, yeah, the Daemon
and his great grandmother.
Yeah, when you
Well-
get into like brother cousin territory, it's.
Yeah, well,
Ooh.
it's the Daemon Rhaenyra marriage that actually sort of makes a lot of chaos because it's two generations like that. So like Viserys is uncle grandpa to Aegon and Viserys, and it gets. I'm not gonna say fun, but yeah, I'm gonna say fun to.
He's a
figure it all
grunkle.
out and laugh.
It makes the
He
Targaryen family tree a real pain in the ass to look up.
Yeah, obviously she doesn't have as many marriages as Daemon does, but isn't like Jocelyn Baratheon also like kind of like the aunt of like one of the
So
people she
Jocelyn
marries
is-
or
Yeah, Jocelyn is the daughter of Alyssa?
Alyssa, yeah.
Yeah, Alyssa Velaryon, who is also related to the Targaryens because her parents was, I think, a Targaryen as well. One of their parents was a Targaryen or something like that. So it's like
No, she married Aenys and then married, but we don't really know her ancestry.
I think it is said. Wait a second.
Yeah, it'd be help if they got that DNA test,
Yeah, that's 23andMe. Please take
That's
it.
right. That story. No, so this is something. that has been floating around for real. It was like a post on Reddit or whatever that's been floating around the last couple of weeks. It's like someone posted that like they'd been like dating their brother for the last 6 years and just found out because they took the ancestry kits. Well, they're like, we're both adopted. It's just like no one knows, and like half the comments were like just pretended because it's like they own a house together. They like just pretend this never happened. You never got the test. Like
There was
it's too
definitely
late.
an article, like, this was several years ago, of a lady who found out that, like, her husband was actually her father, who she had, like, never known as a child. Like, she just had, like, this huge age gap between her and her husband, and then, like, I guess, like, did some, like, detective work and was like, oh,
Wait a second.
you're my father. She was surprisingly chill about it. She's like, it's just been a crazy couple of days.
It's surprisingly chill.
That's rough,
Oh my
buddy. That's
gosh.
rough. But yeah,
Yeah.
so Alyssa marries Aenys, and then Aenys marries Rogar. Rogar has Jocelyn.
Aenys marries Rogar? Shit,
No,
I love this
Alyssa.
story.
That is a match made in heaven, though. Jocelyn marries Balon.
Aemon. No,
Aemon.
Aemon.
Aemon. Oh yeah, Aemon. Yeah, you're
Aemon.
right. You're right.
Yeah.
And then she marries Corlys, and then Corlys and her have Laenor and Laena, and then Laena marries Daemon and has Baela and Rhaena.
Yes, we don't know their children. We never got that
well,
far on the timeline.
Well, we have.
We know that
three. Baelon, or Daemon is the child of Balon, who's the brother of Aemon. So,
Aemon, just Aemon, right?
Aemon. Is it?
Yeah.
All right.
It's just Aemon.
Right, and then Oakenfist is Corlys's son, and then he marries Baela.
Well, he's either Corlys' son or Laenor's son. So,
my buddy's son, Corlys.
I assume he's Corlys' son too, but I mean,
but
allegedly,
I think Adam is Laenor's son or Daemon's son, one or the other, because he wouldn't be a dragon rider if he were Corlys' son.
Yeah, Daemon, actually, that's a good point about Daemon.
Yeah, so because Corlys is like several generations, or at least 2 or 3 generations removed from Targaryen marriage, so probably not able to ride a dragon if he tried. If
takes
that
a
matters,
drop. Tess takes a drop.
Yeah, to be a dragon,
right?
A dragon keeper.
I don't know. Dany's dragons really like Brown Ben Plum, and that's like at least 100 years, right?
Yeah, but they don't let him ride. They just like him.
Maybe they.
Well, we don't know
could.
yet. We don't know yet.
Yeah, there's some theories out there that he'll be
also.
Danny.
Oh God!
We're talking
jail those people. I will jail
that
anyone that says Brown.
I remember
Also,
that being floated around during like tinfoil cast like years ago.
Also, if we're talking like technically, Dany's like what, like 1/16 an actual Targaryen because of all the out marriages that happened during Aegon the Fourth.
Talk about
or Aegon the Fifth.
Yeah, but her like inbreeding coefficient is like sky high, so
it's higher than Charles the Third.
Oh my God,
Charles II. You mean? Charles II actually had a cousin on the Austrian side who was like just as inbred as he was, but she lived a pretty healthy life comparatively.
Interesting.
Good times.
I'm gonna head off because it's almost 1 a.m.
We're talking about Habsburgs.
Yeah, it's that time. We should record our outro here, and then we can just do whatever after that.
Okay, wait. I just want to note one thing, which is that they gave away how Rhaenyra dies. Did you guys see that?
Oh,
wait,
Game
what?
of Thrones?
Yeah.
Oh
no! In this
I
episode.
got that. Yeah, the pyromancer. Do you want to know how you die? And then
Yeah, and the dragon mouth that is breathing fire just goes.
Joffrey already said it in Game of Thrones.
I was gonna say, yeah, Game of Thrones, Joffrey says it to Marjorie.
Okay, but that's post facto. This is foreshadowing.
Yeah.
True.
The normies won't remember that, Ben.
Also, Joffrey doesn't know their names. So he's just like, one Targaryen fed another one to his dragon.
Yeah.
It was fed his aunt to his dragon, and that was that. So
Yeah. Anyway, let's record a clean ending here real quick. All right.
Yeah.
We can be done with it.